In this hour, I am joined by Congressman Steven Horsford. I happen to be broadcasting live from Las Vegas, Nevada. I landed today in Las Vegas as a part of my 7 state Battleground tour. Just 2 days ago, I was in Phoenix and Tempe, Arizona, meeting with voters, engaging with voters in that key swing state. And I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada for 2 days doing exactly the same. I had the honor and pleasure today being with some other volunteers, knocking doors actually in the congressman's congressional district and meeting those voters who are going to be so critical to not only key congressional races and down ballot races in battleground states, but also the very, very, very important presidential election. Congressmember Horsford is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and in this hour, I'm going to talk with him and a very successful businessman in Las Vegas, Marcus Allen, who happens to own a string of barber salons. I'm going to barbershop, call it salons, barbershops. I'm going to be joining Marcus Allen and some of his students and community leaders in a conversation tomorrow at Masterpiece. And I'm looking forward to engaging with those voters. So, Congressman Horsford, thank you for joining me in this hour. I'm in your state. I am knocking on doors in your district. I'm meeting your voters. And I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous about what I'm hearing. So talk to me about what's going on in this key battleground state.
Well, all roads lead through Nevada for a victory for Kamala Harris. My district, which includes North Las Vegas and Las Vegas, Central Rural Nevada, is really the heart of the turnout operation for the top of the ticket. I know that we are working extremely hard. We've got a ton of support with labor unions, the culinary, SEIU, the building trades. We had several canvas kickoffs throughout this week, hundreds of volunteers who are knocking on doors, making calls. But yes, it's going to be a close election here in Nevada, as it is in a number of battleground states. And that's why it's so important that we reach people where they are. We talk about the power of their vote and what it means for their future. I'm really proud that the vice president laid out a very clear plan for Black men and our stake in this upcoming election as part of her overall opportunity economy agenda, which really does lift up all people, including Black Americans.
So, Congressman, help me understand the demographics of Nevada. So, like I said, I was just 2 days ago in Arizona. Arizona is a third Democrat, third Republican, and a third other. Although some of the Democrats told me that 1/3 other tends to lean more Democratic. What's the breakdown of the residents in the state of Nevada?
Mm-hmm. Well, so about 75% of the voters are in Clark County, Southern Nevada, which includes Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and the surrounding communities. The other percentage of the population is in Reno and Washoe County, and then central rural Nevada, parts of the district that I represent that are very remote. They're really frontier. They're very conservative rural counties and communities. My district is over 34% Latino, about 15% Black population, 10% Asian American. It is a majority minority voting district, but it's still majority white it's a majority minority population district, but majority white voting population. So it will continue to change demographically. It's one of the most diverse districts in Congress. This is the district that I grew up in. I was born and raised here, and I'm proud to represent the people of Nevada's 4th district. But I am the first African-American to be elected to Congress from Nevada and now serving as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus.
So when you talk about majority white voters, so are you saying that that Clark County has more minority people, Black and brown residents, but that voting wise, white people vote at higher rates than the minorities in Clark County?
Yeah, and there's a number of factors for that. For the Latino population, which is over 30%, many are young. They're not yet of age to vote. Some are legal permanent residents, meaning they can work here, but they can't yet vote. And then we have a large number of new residents or citizens or people who grew up here who are still acclimating to the process of participating in every election. And so a big part of our work is about making sure that people know the importance of registering to vote. You can actually register up to and including on election day, making sure that people have a plan to vote early. You can vote early starting on this Saturday, October 19th, and making sure that we turn out that vote. Now, you talked about Arizona. In Nevada, it's about the same. A third of our electorate are nonpartisans or independents. About a third are Republicans, and about a third are Democrats. Nonpartisans and independents do break towards the Democratic Party, but it's not a guarantee. In every election, we have to work those voters, make sure that they understand, again, the importance of the issues that are at hand and where we stand on those issues compared to our extreme MAGA Republican opponents on the other side, led by Donald Trump.
So New York Times is out with an article today that says that the economy is what's top of mind for voters in Nevada, that they're very concerned about the high cost of gas, electricity, housing in particular. How are you talking to those voters about what the Harris-Walz campaign or administration, if they are elected, will do to address and alleviate some of the anxiety that Nevada residents have over, high prices?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, Vice President Kamala Harris understands these issues in Nevada. She's been to our state now 17 times as vice president, nine just in the last year, and 3 times since becoming the nominee. So she does understand the issues that are facing the people of Nevada. She understands that the rent is too damn high, that the cost of housing is becoming unaffordable for far too many people. That is why she has included in her opportunity economy a plan, one, to take on these corporate landlords, these Wall Street hedge funds that own over 20% of the homes throughout Southern Nevada are owned by these corporate landlords who are gouging renters, driving up the cost of housing, making it unattainable for veterans and seniors and first-time home buyers to even buy a home. But beyond that, she's also working to address building and making the supply of housing more available. That's part of her 3 million home initiative across all the United States, including Nevada. She has a plan to provide up to $25,000 of down payment grants to help people get into a home. And so all of these things taken together are her plan for moving forward towards making housing more affordable, because it's a multi-pronged approach to really tackle the problem.
Congressman, the president, or vice president, I should say, Harris rolled out this economic opportunity plan for Black men, really targeting Black men yesterday. 1 million loans, $20,000 forgivable loans for Black men, entrepreneurs to start businesses. Also focus on health, some of the diseases that impact Black men, focus on creating apprenticeships programs, more Black educators. I mean, just this real holistic approach to addressing many of the issues that Black men say have prevented them from taking advantage of what we call the American dream, like wages, work, and wealth. A lot of folks really excited about it, say this is exactly what is needed to motivate that 10 to 20%, depending on what number you believe, of Black men that may have defected from the Democratic Party. But others are saying it's too little too late. What are you hearing from the voters, the Black men voters in Nevada who have had an opportunity to hear about this plan?
I've heard nothing but excitement by the fact that we are finally having a discussion that centers the priorities of Black men. You know, Black men are actually the second most dedicated voting bloc within the Democratic Party and overwhelmingly support the Vice President Kamala Harris to be our 47th president. second only to Black women, I might point out, right? And so this whole narrative that somehow Black men are not engaged or don't have a political perspective is just untrue. And the vice president knows this. She also understands the importance of earning every vote by listening to voters where they are. She started this not now. This is something that she's been doing as part of her economic opportunities tour all across the country. I joined her for several of those events along with other members of the Congressional Black Caucus in Atlanta and Detroit and Philly. She came out to Las Vegas and talked about it as well. But the premise of the agenda, I think, is what is most important. Let's talk about the fact of 1 million Black entrepreneurs being supported with $20,000 of forgivable loans to take their great idea and turn it into a business. Who can be against that? Helping 1 million Black homeowners achieve a part of the American dream by building equity, which is really how we build wealth in the Black community in order to pass that on to our children and to our families. To help address the fact that only 1% of the teachers in our public school system today are Black men. That affects everybody because who's in the front of a classroom teaching matters. And we need more Black men. And she is proposing a teacher pipeline for Black men through our HBCUs and community colleges, as well as her focus on cryptocurrency, digital assets, which 20% of Black men invest in today, particularly young men. And we need to make sure that there's a proper regulatory structure for them as they continue to make these investments and that they get the education and financial literacy around their investments so that they're successful. And then I think one of the biggest elements of this plan is about legalizing marijuana and making sure that we address both the decriminalization and helping those individuals who may have gotten a conviction to have that record expunged, and beyond that, to make sure that they are able to participate through the wealth and wages opportunity that the cannabis industry provides since we have been incarcerated due to previous laws that have been on the books. So this is a package. There's so much more. She's talking about Black farmers, access to capital, starting bank accounts for Black families. This is so important to creating that work, wages, and wealth part of the agenda that the Congressional Black Caucus has been working on for some time. So I'm excited. I'm glad that we are not talking down to Black men. We're not talking about Black men. We are listening to them, and the vice president is listening, and she's acting by putting forward this very bold agenda.
So some of the young Black men that I encountered in my engagement and door-to-door knocking and canvassing and the event that I actually hosted in Tempe, Arizona last night were young Black men who are very concerned about the war in Gaza, about the Middle East crisis, and feel like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden have not done enough to cause Israel to enter into a ceasefire, to change the way that it is addressing the horrific, murders of Palestinian families and children. What do you say to those Black men, young people, period, not just Black men, but young people, many of them on college campuses have been protesting. We know some refer to Joe Biden as Genocide Joe. What do you say? A professor that was on a little earlier just said he would like to hear this administration in the last closing days of this campaign talk specifically about what it will do to support those in Gaza and stop making the claim that Israel has a right to defend itself.
Well, look, I first listened to the constituents on both sides of this issue. As a member of Congress, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, I also receive briefings, and we do have to take on the real threat, which is Iran and Hezbollah and the proxies that are being used, including Hamas, which did cause the attack on the people of Israel on October 7th. That was a tragic attack that cost the lives of many and hostages who are still either being detained or whose lives have been lost. That is not to underscore or discount the Palestinian people and their plight in this, and the fact that they deserve humanitarian peace and assistance. And I think part of what the administration did put out today to the government of Israel, which I think we need to differentiate the prime minister, Netanyahu, and the government. Just like Donald Trump, I wouldn't want everyone to judge the United States on one person's actions. But we do need to make sure that there's proper oversight and accountability for any role that the United States plays in any further escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. And so listening, making sure that we're working towards peace, but ultimately we have to end this war, get our hostages out, and to make sure that we are working towards a two-state solution for the Palestinians and for the Israelis.
Real quickly, before I let you go, Congress member, what's your prediction about Nevada and what we can expect to see on election night? Is Nevada going blue for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz?
Yes, we're going to win in 21 days. Nevada will deliver 6 electoral votes for Kamala Harris, and for Tim Walz, we are going to help keep the U.S. Senate by reelecting Jackie Rosen, and we're going to make Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House by keeping our most competitive districts, including mine. I represent one of the 30 most competitive districts in all of the Congress. So we're not taking anything for granted. We're working around the clock to talk to voters, to talk to them about the importance of their vote, the fact that not only do we have a woman's right to make her own health care decisions on the line, but also our other fundamental freedoms, the freedom for people to live in communities free from gun violence, the free from hate, the freedom to love who you love, the freedom to thrive economically. These are all issues that are on the ballot. And when you put up the record of Kamala Harris and the Democrats versus Donald Trump and the Republicans, you can see one wants to take us forward, the other one wants to take us back. One wants to protect our rights and our freedoms, the other one wants to erode them through their blueprint and their playbook, Project 2025. So the more we talk about the issues, connect with the voters, we're going to win, and Nevada will help put her over the top.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And Speaker Jeffries was on with me yesterday, and he was in California stumping in some of those competitive House races. And I'm excited. I think California is going to deliver so that Speaker Jeffries does become House Leader Hakeem Jeffries. I'm also very encouraged around that. And I'm going to be looking for Nevada on election night to deliver those 6 electoral votes. Hope to see you on the campaign trail here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And thank you so much, Congress member, and good luck to you in your own race. So important to have you back in the U.S. Congress as well. I had a chance to speak with a group of local leaders. And one of the things that struck me about the event last night, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to all the folks that came out. We had a packed house at a recently purchased a restaurant in Tempe, Arizona, African-American woman and her husband. Her name is Rosa. Her husband's name is Jason. They are the owners of a restaurant. It was Old Fuddruckers. You guys remember that chain of restaurants? Well, she bought it and gutted it and made it into this really nice club that has opportunities for, it has a stage, which was perfect for me because I hosted a live broadcast of my streaming show, The Special Report. But it also has a DJ booth. It has an opportunity for live music. And actually on Sundays and Saturdays, they actually host a really special brunch with live music, gospel music on Sundays. Lots of different artists come through and perform. Lots of really cool people showed up. Elected officials, community leaders, activists, educators, professionals. I mean, it was multi-generational, millennials, Gen Zs, baby boomers, folks who care about their community, folks who care about this election, folks who want to be engaged in every way that they can. And what struck me was the sense of urgency And you never know how people are feeling about elections, which is why I left California for the next couple of weeks and got on the road because I wanted to get out of my California bubble and talk to real voters, talk to people who are on the ground, who are, thinking about this election, not through the lenses of experts, not through the lenses of cable news, not through the lenses of pollsters and those who are in the legacy media whose job it is to keep this race very, very close, whose job it is to, I think, make folks feel incredibly anxious. That's how I feel sometimes. Like, my goodness, I pick up the newspaper and the polls, your head is spinning around and around like on a stick, because one day Kamala Harris is up, the next day Donald Trump is up. One day it's black voters, the next day it's Muslim voters, and then it's female voters, it's white women in the suburbs. All of these groups of voters who are being, targeted, and folks are making projections about, how they are going to vote in this election. And I want to make sure I understand how people are thinking. I wanted to debunk a lot of the disinformation that's been targeted, particularly to black communities. And I went through a list of false statements that have been made by conservatives, by right wing conspiracy theorists, by Donald Trump, by J.D. Vance. And it was amazing to me how some of these things had started to stick, meaning people didn't know that they were false. Some of the things we talked about, statements, false statements made by Donald Trump, is that black people did better economically, financially, under his administration. That is categorically false. There was a period early on in Donald Trump's administration when the unemployment rate for African Americans started to come down. However, once the pandemic hit, that unemployment rate, we know, took a nosedive. And by the time of the end of his candidacy, black unemployment rate was back up to an all-time high. What we know is under Joe Biden and his administration, he is the president in the history of this country that has achieved the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans ever. So if you judge how black people are doing economically by our rates of employment, whether we have jobs, then there's not even a question about doing better under Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, because we did better under Joe Biden. The next myth that we debunked was that Donald Trump saved Obamacare. We heard J.D. Vance make that false statement on the debate stage when he was debating Tim Walz. That's categorically false. Donald Trump spent his whole political career trying to kill off the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, but he never had enough. He doesn't have the brains, he doesn't have the know-how to put together any other health plan, one, that his own party would support, or two, that the American people would accept. And the reality is, more people are insured under the Affordable Care Act than ever in the history of this country. More people have access to high quality health care. Is our healthcare system perfect? Absolutely, positively not. Does it still need a lot of reforming? Yes. But this isn't about perfection. This is about, which president, which administration has moved the country forward and has made the lives of people better. So this lie that somehow Donald Trump saved Obamacare, it's that. So when you hear people say that, tell them that's categorically false. Donald Trump wanted to kill off Obamacare. He tried everything he could, got a vote all the way to the floor that got voted down by that historic vote of John McCain, who basically got off his deathbed to vote down a plan that would have destroyed Obamacare. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been working hard since they've been in office to continue to tweak and make our healthcare system better. The other myth is that Donald Trump saved HBCUs. Again, big, big fat lie. Donald Trump didn't save HBCUs. Donald Trump reluctantly signed off on a piece of legislation passed by Congress to continue to fund HBCUs. It's not a piece of legislation that he initiated, is not one that he should even remotely try to take credit for. And we know under the Biden Harris administration, well, first of all, we know Kamala Harris graduated from a HBCU. She graduated from Howard University. So she has been one of the biggest champions for financial support from the US government for HBCUs. $13 billion pledged to HBCUs under the Biden-Harris administration, and millions of dollars actually into the hands of those universities and colleges under the Biden-Harris administration. Again, a big fat lie. What we do know is Donald Trump invited a bunch of black presidents from HBCUs to the White House early on in his administration, did a photo op with them. It was so bad that after the photo op, many of them disavowed him, made statements that they regretted even going, said they felt like they were just being used as props because he nor his administration wanted to have any substantive conversations about really supporting HBCUs. So, again, that is a false statement that is pushed by Donald Trump and others in his camp, and we need to be able to push back on that. The next one. Donald Trump was responsible for the COVID stimulus checks that so many people received. Again, we hear that stated over and over again in rap songs. People, rap about the stimmy check, talk about Donald Trump. What we do know is Donald Trump and his vanity withheld the checks, delayed the passing out of the checks, the distribution of the checks, so that the Department of Treasury could print his name on them. That had never been done in the history of this country, because he wanted people to falsely believe that he somehow was writing and sending them a check. And again, the stimulus dollars were passed because of a piece of legislation initiated in Congress and passed by our congressional leaders. So if you're going to give credit to anyone for stimulus checks, it should be Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic House of Representatives, not Donald Trump. Again, a big fat lie. And people believe somehow that they're going to get those stimulus checks again. No, people, that's not going to happen. Those were one time allocations of government funds to get people over, to tide people over during the worst pandemic we had seen in this country's history. So it's not as if Donald Trump gets elected in November and January, you start getting COVID checks again. And when Donald Trump talks about helping the economy, what he's really talking about is helping his billionaire friends. It's cutting taxes for the top 1% earners in this country, cutting taxes for the largest corporations in this country. There are very, very few black billionaires in this country. There are very few black multimillionaires. So most of the tax cuts that Donald Trump plans, that he did while he was actually president, it did not trickle down. Trust me, I'm an economics major from the University of Chicago. The whole concept of trickle down economics was invented by economists at the University of Chicago. I studied trickle down economics. This is this theory that if you give tax breaks to the ultra wealthy, they'll use the extra revenue that they have by not paying those taxes and do good. They'll increase the wages of their workers. They'll give more benefits to their workers. That's a bunch of crock. That is not what happens. When you give tax breaks to the ultra rich, what they do is they just distribute more of the money from the tax breaks to their rich friends. They pay more in dividends and shareholder dividends. So the stock owners, the majority stock owners in these big companies, whether it's American Airlines or McDonald's, they get richer with those tax cuts. The CEOs, look at the growth. If you ever want to know what a CEO of a big company makes, many of these CEOs make 20, 30, $50 million a year. They fly around in private jets. They live a life of luxury while they fight their workers, they fight labor unions, refusing to give them livable wages. So those are the people that are going to benefit under Donald Trump. So if you are a middle class person, even if you are a professional, even if you are, a millionaire, unless you are a multi-millionaire, unless you are a CEO of one of these major corporations, or unless you are a shareholder, or you are again a part of that 1%, there's nothing in Donald Trump's economic plan that is going to benefit you. So we've got to be clear-eyed about this election. We got to be clear-eyed about our choices. And I understand what Professor Smiley was saying about voting your heart, voting your principles. I'm all for that. If you don't stand for anything, you will fall. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. We've all heard that before, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But am also like Professor Walker. I am a progressive pragmatist, meaning the hand that I would like to be dealt is very different than the hand that I've been dealt. And today and in this election, we've got to deal with the hand that we have all been dealt. Tomorrow in Las Vegas, I will be hosting a live panel with community leaders and entrepreneurs at Masterpiece Barber School. This is a barber school owned by Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen is a successful entrepreneur. He actually owns four barbershops in Las Vegas, the largest chain and selection of barbershops in the state. I'm going to be talking to Marcus, some of his barber students, and some of his clients tomorrow. All this focus on Black men, what Black men want out of this election, what they expect when elected officials ask for their votes. We're going to be going to barbershop. Now, Robert, my producer, reminded me that all Black men don't go to barbershops. Of course, they don't. But I bet if we did a Google search, we'd find that a overwhelming percentage of Black men spend a lot of time in barbershops. It is a place for many, it's a respite. It's a place where they go not just to get their hair cut, but they go to find community. The barber, you'll hear barbers say that they're like bartenders. They often become like the therapist. They become the priest, the rabbi, the pastor, the psychologist for their clients. We know in many families it's a tradition when a Black little boy goes to get his first haircut. He goes, his father, grandfather, or some male figure in his life takes him to a barbershop. That's a rites a passage in a lot of families. So we know there's a lot of conversations that take place in barbershops. And we know when people want to reach a large number of Black men, they often go to barbershops. A good friend of mine, I remember a physician, was going around talking to Black men about prostate cancer, about colon cancer, about getting screenings. And he started off hosting events at different venues, and he realized, you know what? I can talk to 30, 40, 50% more Black men if I put my show on the road and go into barbershops, particularly on Saturdays, which is one of the busiest days. And he was successful. And so that model is one that was used during so many efforts. Activists who are trying to reach Black men will often go to barbershops. So I'm excited to be at Masterpiece's Barber School. We still have some slots available. You can go to my website, arevamartin.com. If you know folks that live in the Las Vegas community, spread the word, share this information with them. Because one of the things Michelle Obama said at the DNC, she said, look, we can't wait for people to knock on our door, send us a personal invitation, an engraved, beautiful invite to get involved in this collection. She said, in fact, consider this your invitation. Consider yourself having been asked by former First Lady Michelle Obama to get involved. And so I'm just kind of backing up what Michelle Obama said. I am going to Battleground states talking to voters, reminding them that they may not get a visit from the vice president. They may not get a visit from Tim Walz. They may not even see their local congressman or U.S. senator, but there are folks all over this country, like myself, who are going into communities talking to people because we want people to feel seen. We want them to feel heard. We want them to know that their voices matter, that their votes matter. And in Tempe last night, I mean, people were just coming up to me saying, thank you, Areva. Thank you so much. And this is a community that has had Kerry Washington. They've had Jessica Alba. They've had a lot of big Hollywood celebrities go into these battleground states. But they also want to just hear from people like me, people who aren't, actors and entertainers, but people who they trust, people that they know are going to give it to them straight, going to give them accurate information. And so I'm grateful to the folks who are opening their doors, who are hosting events for me, like Marcus Allen at Masterpiece's Barber School, because these conversations are so important. We're 21 days out from this election. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people who still say they don't know much about Kamala Harris. There are people who still say they don't know what her policies are. And I know the Congressman Horsford just said that everybody he's talked to is super excited about Kamala Harris's economic plan for Black men. But I've talked to folks who aren't feeling as rosy about it. And it may just be because they don't have all the facts. So I just want to make sure that people have all the facts. because what I do know about Kamala Harris is the more you get to know her, the more you learn about her and her plans, the more likely you are to vote for her. I've seen that. I've seen people just transform overnight. So, as someone who is fortunate enough to have known her since college, to have worked with her on her many campaigns that still was very intimately involved in her 2020 presidential campaign. I know her heart. I know what her commitment to service is. So it's an honor for me to be able to be out in these battleground states, talking to voters, sharing with them what I know. And sometimes people, I agree with Michelle Obama, but sometimes people do need a little nudge. They need a little personal touch. And that's what my tour is about, is giving folks a little personal touch. After Nevada, I head back to California for a couple of days, and I hit the road all next week, starting with Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A lot of Black voters in Milwaukee, very consequential battleground state. Then Detroit, Michigan, another incredible state, a state where Donald Trump has maligned over and over again. 77% Black. Detroit is going to be pivotal to this election. And then I go to Atlanta, Georgia. Again, predominantly African American cities. State of Georgia is going to be critical. We know Georgia broke for Joe Biden in 2020, and we believe that can happen again in this election. So I end the tour in Philly and then North Carolina. So if you know anyone in any of the battleground states, again, direct them to my website, have them come out. I'd love to hear from them. I'm going to meet a cousin of a good friend from Los Angeles and Detroit, a cousin who says he is voting for Donald Trump. I'm particularly interested in meeting those folks who want to vote for Donald Trump, because I want to engage with them as well. I want to have a civil conversation with them and tell them what I know about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the Democratic Party. We ain't got to shout at each other and don't have to get into a big, drawn out fight. But I do think, and I know for a fact, having done this for a long time, that when people hear from people they like, they trust, they believe in, you can change the hearts and minds of folks. So again, Battleground State Tour. I'm on the second leg of the tour. I'm going to be at Masterpieces Barber School tomorrow night in Las Vegas. Marsha Warfield is going to roll through. Macy Grace rolled through last night in Tempe. So I got these special guests lined up. You never know who's going to roll through, who's made a commitment to engaging with voters and making sure that we save our democracy. So make sure you follow me on all social at Areva Martin, Instagram, Facebook, X, on LinkedIn, to keep up with the tour. I'm posting videos and photos because I want you to feel like you're out here with me. A friend of mine last night said, don't worry about these tweets, but take it to the streets. And that's what we're doing. We're out here taking it to the streets, meeting voters where they are, engaging with them, and reminding them that their vote matters. All right, I'm out, y'all. I will be live again tomorrow from Las Vegas, Nevada, key battleground state.